right, we are getting started in just a moment. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar, and this is our October session. And we are going to focus in this session on your year-end fundraising blueprint. So the actual blueprint, the calendar, how to get this all together, what sequence to be sending things in, and just sort of dispel some of the myths, but also get everyone motivated, and maybe we even have a few little hacks in there that we can tap into that are going to help us out and make things a little easier. So welcome, everyone. Good to have you with us. Meg, did you want to say a couple of things?
Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We'd love to get to know you. So if you could drop your name, your location, and your organization in the chat, we would highly appreciate it. And probably by the end of the webinar, we can mention your names if you have questions. So you are free to use the chat.
Great. So, and questions can be asked all the way through. Okay, we don't need to save those till the end. We like to answer them as we go. We're going to keep this very organic and flowing. Meg is part of our team. She handles all of the webinar communication, so you've probably gotten some things from her in the past. All right, we're going to jump in. First, let me just share my screen in a moment. I'm on the right one, which I can't even see here. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, so today we talk about calendaring your initiatives and boosting giving for the end of year. You all know who I am. I'm the CEO of the Kannico Agency. I've got my wonderful team here today, Tanaka and Meg, Chidi, Needy, James, lots of folks joining. And we have a very special guest today who is going to be talking us through this work. So Doug Oliphant is the principal and COO of Coastal Nonprofit Consulting. He's a respected fundraising strategist with a strong track record of designing and executing successful year-end campaigns, and they do amazing grant writing as well. So about the organization, they have grant services, assisting nonprofits in securing institutional funding through comprehensive grant writing, reporting, management, training, and relationship building. So this isn't just writing a grant for you. This is actually the entire flow, the entire process. Individual giving, optimizing annual fund efforts and major gift fundraising, cultivating strong donor pipelines, fostering meaningful donor relationships for steady revenue streams. I just need 1 second. I have I have something showing up on my screen here that's blocking what I'm reading. It's the captions. I can't get rid of the captions. Hold on. Caption settings. How about go away? I don't know how to get rid of them. All right. Oh, hold on 1 second. I think because I have it on the other screen. Anyway, I'm going to disregard that if I can. Philanthropy operations support, implementing customizable tools and systems to streamline gift entry, acknowledgements, and reporting processes, enabling efficient donor stewardship and accurate budget forecasting. What did we miss on that, Doug? What else do you do?
The big broad bucket, donors and grants and all of the different processes to drive them.
Excellent.
Well, it is
awesome. So good to have you with us. Do you have a few words before we kick this off? Anything you want to share with us before we jump into our first question about campaigns for the year?
No, but thank you so much for having me here, Kirsten. I'm a big fan of you, your company, and your work. I think you're a wonderful professional in the field, and I had the privilege of getting to work with you and to know you earlier this year. So it's wonderful.
We did work on a project together. Yes,
that's
we
right.
Sure did. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm done. It was great. Those are my words.
All right. Well, welcome again.
Yes.
So Doug, if we think of this whole big end of year campaign thing, what would be, just kind of as an intro, what would be your first thoughts on this before we get into some of the actual discussion questions?
So first thoughts are just, it's sort of what is it and why is it, right? Why is it popular to have an end of year campaign? What's the purpose for it? And if it's not already on your radar, why should it be? And basically it's the same reason that we know that the end of the year is the holiday season. We know the end of the year is when our taxes for our everything we earned, we made for this year comes to an end, and the next year rolls over, and then we have to pay our taxes on everything that happened that prior year. So the end of the year time for a donor is exciting, sort of twofold. One, for the tax advantage of giving to a nonprofit, but also you're just in the spirit of giving through the holiday season, through the I don't know, the practices that are very old and very established in our families and our traditions, and giving to nonprofits is included in that. So a year-end campaign is really just capturing the moment that happens every single year. There's already energy and enthusiasm, and if we, as leaders of nonprofits, can position ourselves as being an equal recipient of somebody's generosity and support, we benefit from that giving.
Is it ever too late to get started?
Oh, no way. It's January 1st.
Now
it's
too
late to get started, but it's
n-
never too late. Now is a great time to get started if you haven't already.
Fantastic. Okay. All right, great. Okay, let's jump into the first one. So how can nonprofits structure their year-end campaign calendar to balance multiple appeals without overwhelming donors? Oh my gosh, I love this question, because the thing is, if you start to get into it, then you can get overexcited and now you just want to send them so much stuff. And how do you put that together so that you're not overwhelming your donors?
Yeah. How many, let's just use the chat to put in here. Does anybody have a fear around this where you're worried that you might be sending too many communications? And if you're asking for money, but you also have a busy marketing calendar of other things your nonprofit is doing, you worry that donor fatigue will kick in, people will feel just worn down, sick of hearing from you. Yeah, raise your hand or put it in the chat if that's
I even
you.
struggle with that.
Yeah.
And there are also events for the end of the year. So then how do you mix in reminders about events, but also the appeals? How do you keep them distinguished from each other? Do you include appeal information in every reminder about the event? I mean, it's a lot. It is.
It is a lot. It's always a lot. And it's like the holidays are a lot. Every part of our lives, it feels like, are a lot. But what I think is crucial about this is that a good campaign has a very clear launch, a beginning of it, and a very clear end date. So your promise to your donors, your audience, your everybody is that we're going to ask you for your support. We're going to be telling you, teaching you, engaging you about the mission that we're doing, the impact that we've had, and how your giving can help inform that. But there's an end date to it, and it's urgent, and giving in this window is a limited time offer. And that sort of limited scope of when it's going is your, I don't know, it's the way that you communicate to your audience that this is not a forever. If you don't like it right now, you can tune these out for a little bit before we go back to business as usual, essentially. But if you don't participate, you don't capture anybody who is interested in engaging, and you do far more harm by being worried about the people that might be like, this is too much, than by capturing those that want to support.
So it can be detrimental to not do it because you're so worried that you're going to overwhelm people. Better to just go with it and take your chances, and perhaps and try and maybe figure out the sequence and the urgency. Now, when you talk about the clear launch date, do you announce that in advance, or would you, if you're launching a campaign, would you say we have our end of year campaign starting November 1st or October 22nd? It's going to go through December 31st. Or do you just get into the campaign and then say that there's an end date?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever prepped an audience in advance for it. Just it launches, but I don't think there's any harm in doing that if that is a natural flow of your communications. I think every night it looks different, and the way that you're communicating with your audience looks different. But in general, I've found that if you launch big, you declare at the beginning of the campaign, and you have a very clear end date. No one is like, whoa, that you came at me too fast. Like,
Yeah.
you should have warned me that you were going to start
Yeah.
emailing me about this campaign. Like, it's like an
Yeah.
email. So you're
Yeah.
like, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's some of the, when you mentioned the urgency, what's some language that you can use, Doug? What can people incorporate, whether it's through email, whether it's through phone calls, whether it's through socials? What are some of those things that can convey that urgency?
The best thing that you can do, and you should strive to do it every time, is to have a matching gift incentive. A donor, especially a donor who can put their name and is comfortable with putting their name as the match. And it doesn't really matter how much. It should be an ambitious but reasonable and truthful amount that a donor could give. But it's by having that match donor. This donor is willing to match all funds received up to blank dollar amount, as long as they're received before December 31st. That is the urgency. That's the end. We know that this is over on December 30th, but like, now is the time, people. It's the somebody else's skin in the game, essentially, putting their name, a very real person, forward, saying, I will champion this organization and put my support out there, and I want to see other people participate as well. It's the perfect major gift opportunity to talk to somebody about, would they be willing to make a gift of however amount that's ambitious enough to be like half of your campaign goal, if you can do something that big, and help you secure a major gift and inspire a lot of giving at the end of the year.
How do we get those matching gifts? Are we reaching out to the major donor and asking them if they'd be willing to, because you know from their history that they typically give towards end of year?
Yeah, it can be there's so many different ways that you can do this. You may have a board member who always gives around the end of the year, and is happy to be public with their name. Hopefully they're public about the amount. Sometimes that can be sticky and uncomfortable for people. So it's a delicate balance of what somebody is willing to share or not. Some people might wish to be anonymous, and that's okay too. But the best thing you can do is to have it be public. And if you don't have somebody that's obvious, who always gives, anybody who has been giving, who has been maybe increasing their gift, maybe you know them, maybe you don't, and have a conversation with them. If you can do any kind of research to help you know their capacity, their ability maybe to give, and know that asking for an amount that might be larger than what they've given before is still within the possibility for them. And to ask for that, be bold about it. Like, these are funds that you need. You probably have a target amount that you need to raise for the year. Be bold about who you ask for. Ideally, it's something that moves the needle forward, that gets the donor to increase maybe to a level they hadn't been before, but they have the opportunity to be the champion on your organization's behalf. You only get one of them. So to the right donor, the opportunity to be that public-facing champion of either a large dollar amount that inspires more giving, or for them, a stepped-up gift that maybe they wouldn't have given if there wasn't a good incentive to drive them there. That matching gift opportunity in the campaign is a great way that you can further your major gift trajectory or deepen your board engagement while making the most incentivized thing to inspire everybody to participate. And that's what you want.
I'm so glad we're talking about this, because you also mentioned smaller was okay, right? So for some organizations that might be young, they might be a little smaller. A matching gift, maybe it's 5,000, maybe it's 10,000 that you're leveraging.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything, right? It's going to scale depending on what kinds of donations, what size donations have you received in the past? What does your last year look like? Find something that you think is ambitious but possible, and have a goal for your campaign, and let this matching gift, if possible, be half of that total amount that you're trying to inspire giving for the campaign.
I love that. Fantastic. Okay, I am going to ask you an ethics question.
Yeah.
So there is an organization whom we support with fundraising every year, and there's a major donor who every year gives $25,000 the end of year. And in the second year, I asked them, once they had already agreed to give their gift, if we could use it for a matching gift,
Mhm.
which felt slightly deceitful because it felt like we were telling our donor base that the gift wouldn't be delivered in full if we didn't raise the matching funds.
Yeah.
But I knew the donors were going to give it anyway, and I asked if I could leverage the gift. Tell me your
Yeah.
thoughts on that. Is that
That
horribly
is
unethical?
No, it is a great question. It is not unethical in my mind, because a donor never has to give, ever obligated to. And what matters to that donor, what matters to the organization, and what matters to the people who are giving in response to that donor is that they see that there is a real person putting money, stake in the game that is inspiring them to give and to do it now. And though, yeah, there is that very gray area of, is it truly, those funds will truly not come in if the total giving does not add up to that dollar amount? Well, even if the answer is no, that donor decides to give it anyway, they could also decide that maybe they don't want to give all of it, and they can change their mind at any point. They are
That's
not
true.
contractually obligated,
You're
right?
right. You're right.
Even if they signed a pledge form, are you going to go and
Mm.
take them to court to go and be like, you owe us? Like, no, they're
Yeah.
a donor.
Yes.
So that's why I say it doesn't,
Mm.
it's not unethical. I've done that for several campaigns in the past. The gift that comes in every year, it's automatic, more or less, but it's a large one, it's inspiring, they're willing to be public about it. It's a great way
Excellent.
to make them feel good, to do good stewardship there, inspire others, and yeah.
Excellent.
We got to be unapologetic around that, because at the end
Okay.
of the day, it's what pushes your organization
Yes.
forward and inspires the fundraising.
I have to say that whenever I've done this with gifts that were verbally being committed to me, or a donor that was coming forward and saying, I've had nothing but yes, oh yes, leverage it as much as you can. Absolutely. We hope you raise lots of money with this. So
Yeah.
always very favorable from the donor
Yeah.
response. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Oh, did you have something else on that, Doug? I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's all. Yep.
Great. All right. So what spacing or sequencing works best for major donors versus general supporters? So this is where we get into, I think, a little bit of the segmenting, right? Maybe talk us a little bit through this, Doug, as we get to looking at our donor base, and we know that we have several different categories. Talk to us about our approach with each and timing.
Yeah. So segmenting is, if you're on the call, and that's a strange word. Let me break it down real quickly. Segmenting and your communications is the difference between standing on a chair at a party and shouting, "Hey, everybody, we're going to have a baby, and just wanted to let everybody know," and coming up to, versus maybe bringing just a side group aside and saying like, "Hey, mom and dad, I want to let you know that we're going to have a baby," and then to your friends separately and saying, "Hey, friends, I want to let you know we're going to have a baby," and then saying to your ex like, "Hey, I just want to let you know we're going to have a baby." Like, it's different. It's you might be saying the same thing, but you're going to say it in a slightly different way to each person. And that's going to make each person feel very respected and seen, and heard. And in the context of giving, you will be that much more likely to give because it felt personal to them. So that's segmenting in a nutshell. It's the best top of my mind example. I don't know why pregnancy, but whatever. But that's the idea.
It.
And your most basic, and it works every time, way of segmenting your audience or your donors or potential donors is essentially anybody who gave earlier this year, who you think is appropriate to ask again if they would contribute something toward this campaign. That would be a second ask. They've given already, and you're going to ask if they could give again. One segment. Another segment is anybody who gave last year but hasn't yet given this year. That would be a renewal. That's their own segment. A third segment is anybody who did not give last year and they haven't yet given this year, but they gave the year before that, or maybe the year before that, and they've just missed a year and they're a last donor. And then essentially everybody else who has not given or has given long enough ago that it's no longer on their mind as the thing that they do, would be the acquisition segment. Someone you're trying to inspire to give for the first time, whether it's actually the first time or not. And by treating those 1, 2, 3, 4 different segments differently, the way that you would speak to them is sort of your key. And you could also make a 5th segment, which is what is in the slide here, for your major donors. If you've got somebody that gives so much that you would consider them a major donor, you have a one-on-one relationship with them, you talk about the updates and everything, it may be inappropriate to use the same kind of standardized blanket language. It's going to depend on the nonprofit, the size, and the relationship to that major donor. But it's something to think about. Who among your major givers is it not appropriate to send a sort of form letter to? Even when it feels personal, it may not be the next communication that you would want to have with that donor. And that's where it's like case by case. It depends on your relationship. And that's good major donor work. You want to be really careful with how you navigate the relationship. But in that case, what we usually do is we pull those donors out. You might do it as a dollar amount and above. If you are fortunate enough to have gift officers or people whose entire job is to develop relationships with donors, and they're assigned to donors, you just take anybody who's assigned to a donor who's giving it a large enough amount. They have somebody assigned to manage the relationship, and just pull them out of the list. That means all your emails, any way that you would communicate with them, they are not going to be a part of that, so that the relationship manager can determine what kind of correspondence they get.
Wow. Now, what about emails? So we have, with major donors, many people are still sending out a letter, an old school letter solicitation, sometimes with an, oh, I'd like your opinion on this too. The envelope, the live stamp, the return address, you know, including that versus not including it. But if we have, let's say we have 5 to 10, what we would consider major donors, and we want to treat them differently. I'm a fairly small nonprofit. Maybe my budget is $250,000 to $500,000 a year. And I want to take very special care of these 5 to 10, hoping a matching gift might surface there too.
Sure.
We're also in the middle of this email campaign, and we've got, you know, multiple emails going out. Do we continue to bombard them with those general communication emails as well as send them the mailed solicitation? Or are we now also creating maybe a different email for them and only sending a couple? What are your thoughts?
So they, like, based on what the scenario you described, these are like 5 to 10 major donors that we're feeling a little uncomfortable around bombarding them like we would with the rest of the group. It's probably best to not include them at all. And so when you would launch the campaign, maybe they could be a part of the launch. Maybe you decide like that one is fine. They should know about it. It represents the organization well. We articulate what we're doing and the impact we've had really nicely. I'd like them to see this.
Yes.
Right. So the first one, it can go out. The call to action, what you're asking them to do is to still click a button if it's in the email to go and donate there. If it's a mailed letter, maybe it's to send back a check. We can go into that separately. But usually in email software, it's standard now to have the ability to suppress a list. It'll ask you, like at your mass mailing, somewhere in that process, if there's a list that you want anybody who appears on this list to exclude, so that that email address does not receive the communication. And that's what you do. You take all of those major donors and you suppress them. Really key too, as this process goes on, you add anybody who donates, because what your goal is to get people to give. As soon as they've given, thank them. That's it. And don't ask them again. So you have to be really careful. As soon as you've launched and it's going, the moment somebody donates, they should be getting a thank you. They should be getting their acknowledgement letter, whatever. respond to them the best you can. Pick up the phone. Hey, I saw you gave. Thank you so much. And you increased from last year. It's incredible. We're doing great work, and I hope to see you soon. But suppress them. Add them to that list of people that are going to be excluded from the following email or all those follow-up communications. And that's how you save badgering the person who did what you asked them to do, which was to give.
Yes.
And that's, thank
Yeah.
you. And that's it.
Okay, question about including the amount they gave the year prior in a solicitation. Your thoughts on that?
Huge fan of that. Everybody,
Okay.
no one can remember anything anymore. We're
Okay.
all so busy. So and donors are the same way. They're like, how much did I give last year? Like when they're thinking about their giving this year, I'm a big fan of two things, always being really specific of how much you're asking for of the person. It's not just give what you can, any amount counts. Like, no, like I want you to give $125. Why? Because that's the lowest level that we have. That's an official level that we say has this kind of impact for our organization. But ideally, your organization has like tiered steps and levels, which is just sort of a mental way of seeing yourself on this, where you fit in as a donor to the organization. And you're always encouraging people to consider the next level, wherever they're at, that dollar amount at the next level. Use the campaign as an opportunity for anybody who's already giving to increase their impact by coming up to that next level. And at the same time, in like the same phrase, you'd thank them for what they gave last year. So if they're a depending on their segment, this is where segmentation is great. Your message to a renewing donor who gave last year, you say, thank you so much for your gift of $125 last year. It made a tremendous impact, blah, blah, blah. This year, if you're able to, we'd love to have you support at the 250, whatever level to be, deep in blah, 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 right? The reason, the impact, the thing that is your case for support is essentially repeated in your solicitation sentence. And but very important to mention what was given last year. If they gave earlier this year, your language has to be, thank you so much for supporting earlier with your gift of 100. If you consider making an additional gift of $50, that would be right, or whatever you're asking for.
Wonderful.
Yeah, always name it. If they were lapsed, thanks for supporting us in the past with your gift of however much. Everything, it just helps them see what they did and then decide based off of that, sort of like quick math budgeting, like, okay, I can afford to do this.
Yes. And it's I think that there's a sense that it could be a little not so tasteful, but I agree with you, people forget. And I think we overthink this. So you mentioned levels. I can tell where a lot of people's minds are going, because mine goes there. Oh, we need named giving tiers now. But you're just saying, even when you click on donate and it gets you 100, 150, 250, 500, you're just saying, just come up with some stages of the, right? That's all.
That's the minimum, right?
Okay.
Like their donation platform suggests it already. It'll like default to suggested donation amounts. You should adjust those to the amounts that make sense to your organization. You don't have too many of them, but enough so that people can really see a range.
Yes.
Maybe decide they're up at the top, whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, if you're able to name it, like cool, but the donor doesn't remember the name. What you really want to do is associate what impact different levels have. And you don't want to make it, there's a tricky line, or you don't want to make the phrasing of how you describe the level to be restricted, like $100 buys 50 pencils and markers. It's like, it's too specific. And now the donor thinks that their $100 is buying that, and you technically need to be creating a separate account in your finance. Like, you don't want to go there. But you can say that $100 supports markers and art supplies for a student for a year. Just like the vagueness of supports, or just the slightest phrase keeps it open, but it suggests something to the donor where they can imagine that kind of impact. And as your tiers scale up, you demonstrate a higher level of impact at a higher giving amount. And hopefully that motivates the donor to go as high as they are able or comfortable to.
And the question about including an envelope with a live stamp, address, etc., in a mail solicitation.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Oh my gosh, do it. It is, I am a huge fan of it. It feels like a dying breed. It feels like, who does this anymore? It feels like a waste of money. But at least the nonprofits that I have worked with, I can't speak for every single one, but I've spent a lot of time in theater. I've spent a lot of time in the arts. The arts in general are supported by a generally older demographic, but even a 30-something-year-old will spend more time looking at a piece of mail that they received in their mailbox than an email. When they get a million emails a day, they might see the subject line and move on, but I open my mail. I open solicitations too, and I look at them and I'm impressed by like the ones that stand out. I remember, and if I were not in this industry and instead I came into contact with a nonprofit because I love them and I get their emails, and then I got something in the mail, I definitely would take enough time to look at the outer envelope, and if that envelope was compelling enough, I'd probably open it. And then I'd at least spend some time with the letter. And that amount of time that is physically in that person's hand is more time than they probably are spending reading that email that you spent so long trying to perfect and craft and get the language just right. And even if they don't send your number 9 return envelope and the check, if they don't do that, but then, you see that the person donates by the 5th email that was sent, I would argue that mailed letter, even though it cost you money and they didn't send the check in that way, that the mailed letter had a longer time and impact on them than maybe your emails. You don't know. It's impossible to know, but I think of it as a crucial step for a multi-channel campaign.
Yes.
And that's what I advocate for, is you're trying to reach people through as many different channels, and you want to organize that in the best way you can to make sure your message is heard.
Fantastic. What language or tactics are most effective for re-engaging lapsed donors during the holiday season? So we've talked a little bit about this, but would you like to elaborate a little bit more, Doug?
Yeah. I think your best language for re-engaging a lapsed donor is going to be your best language that represents the entirety of your campaign. So when you're thinking about what are my messages, what's my central message going to be for this limited time opportunity that people get to donate, you're trying to identify what your greatest need is and how you're going to connect that need with what resonates with donors to inspire them to give. And your lapsed donors, if your language is segmented and you are acknowledging and thanking them for supporting you in the past at whatever dollar amount, and your case for support, the reason why this moment is so vital to your organization in particular, and what you're trying to move toward, and you need their support in order to do, that's either going to resonate with them or it's not. You're not going to convince them any other way than just being yourself in the most compelling, clear, transparent, and urgent to this moment way, while acknowledging who they are and the impact that they had for what they did however many years ago. So it's like, you don't have to beat yourself up over getting the language just right.
Okay.
You're thinking really like, I usually just look at it as 1 or 2 sentences. There's probably ways that you can make it more segmentation, more elaborate for how you would approach them. But I keep it just centered around what the message is for this this moment for the nonprofit, and acknowledge each demographic, each group, and how they participate in the mission and in the nonprofit.
Okay. What about this language of there's sort of this we're your gift could help keep us alive, could help keep the lights on, without your gift we're at risk of going under, versus the the positive, optimistic side of it, which is your gift will enable us to grow next year and enhance our impact and, you know, develop our program and whatever. What have you seen in terms of responsiveness from the public on each of those two tactics? Because I'm asked about that a lot. And the main reason is because nonprofits say, well, we want to be completely transparent, and we are in dire straits, and we are desperate for funding, and we may have to close our doors. My perspective is what I was taught through CFRE, you know, with AFP, which is a donor doesn't want to give to a sinking ship, right? To a dying entity. And I'm not just going to throw good money after bad, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, in general, I would say stay away from the "we're about to close" message, because for the exact same reason as you said, unless that is literally your reality. Your staff is about to be laid off. You get one. Like every think of it like this. Your organization gets exactly one of those. You cannot do it twice. You cannot say we're about to close and then like, okay, everything's great again. Then, oh, I don't know, something else just happened. Because if I was the donor on the second time, I'd be like, who is running this organization and why is it tanking again? I thought we got past that. It's a terribly run organization, and I'm definitely not going to support it.
Yes.
Right? Like so
absolutely.
We get it. Like nonprofits are lean, they're not supported enough to be able to keep the lights on. It is a constant struggle. The best way to fight against it is make sure you show the value of the work that you're doing and get the gifts to be unrestricted, not tied specifically to your programs, because it takes a team, it takes overhead, it takes these unsexy things that are the reality of how businesses are run. We don't scrutinize businesses around the same thing, but we scrutinize nonprofits.
We sure do.
But yeah, so the emergency message you get to use once. Otherwise, people give toward the vision. They give toward the thing that they can see in the future that they could make possible. So you want to paint that picture.
Excellent.
Kirsten?
Thank you. How are we doing for, yes, Meg, questions? Do we have questions?
A great question.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
we have a great question
ahead,
from
Meg.
Sarah Adams. She's from Women's Empowerment International, and the question is, do you have any tips or hacks for small nonprofits that might not have the tech or time to configure the tech to do all of the segmenting and crafting individualized messages?
Yay. Hi, Sarah. Yes. So for sure, the tech is a limiting factor. What you're able to do with an email, being able to say one message to a lapsed donor versus another message to a renewing donor. You can do, I would encourage you to at least do two things, or like to send two messages, right? This is the low tech version of the email that you could do. You can craft two drafts, right, of an email that's going to go to a list of people. One is for anybody who has given in the history of ever, and you could just say, thank you for supporting. You've been an invaluable champion of our cause, of what we do. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you before sharing XYZ of what we're doing, what's going forward, and why I'm asking you to support. The other email, the other group, is to everyone who has never given before. And you're sharing thank you for being interested, right? They've been following, they've been getting your emails, they've been whatever, and you can still thank them, but you're thanking them in a slightly different way. And that's your way of just low tech without having to do merge fields if that's overwhelming and will stop your progress. It is more important that you get the message out and at least do a nod of acknowledgement to those who have already given. We just want to feel seen for that. So in the like party metaphor, it's like the difference of talking to family versus talking to friends. It's talking to supporters who've supported before versus those that haven't yet, but they're still in the party with you.
Excellent. Any other questions, Meg? Moment.
That is it so far. However, I have heard someone who might have spoken. So please,
yeah,
did
someone else have something? No? Okay, that may have been a mistake. All right, move on. How can organizations create personal, thoughtful, holiday stewardship gestures without large budgets? Oh my gosh, this is so good. We want to give. we want to give, we want to send a little token, a little memento, a hat, a
Mhm.
mug. Susie from our development team, or development manager on our team, was showing us these coins yesterday that have I mean, there are just so many great ideas, but what are your thoughts on doing this on a budget, Doug?
Yeah. I I am not a big fan of big gifts. I'm not a fan of expensive gifts. I like, you can, and it's wonderful, but the best gift is like, in general, right? Think of your family and holiday things. Is it the most expensive thing that you received that was the thing that like wooed you? Now, to some people that is the case, and that's fine and wonderful, but that will be one type of person and one type of donor, one type of person among many others, and they will not be the majority. Having something that's personally meaningful, that is as simple as a note, a handwritten note, like that, those do not go out of fashion. In fact, they seem to be more in fashion than ever, because we are more disconnected and trying to forge connection and relationship. Something that shows that you took the time to sit down and write something. It can be a single sentence, because if you're doing it at scale, how many are you going to do? But one sentence that you had to pause and think about, when was the last time you talked to this person? What was your relationship? Maybe I don't even know this person, but I did see that they gave $250 instead of what they gave last year. They gave 125, or they gave 100, they gave 50. They increased their gift. So even just saying like, wow, thank you so much for increasing your gift this year. It means the world. Signature. That's a wonderful gift. Do it on a holiday card, tis the season, right? Have your staff go in and include their signatures at board. You can get as creative as you want, but focus on what is like meaningful and impactful, not about what will be a flashy gift that will get attention. At the end of the day, you need to save your resources for communication, for marketing, for fundraising, for program delivery, for all of that. It just would try to avoid spending the budget on gifts that at scale are going to end up eating a big cost in your budget.
Question for you. What are your thoughts on sending a little video message for the holidays to the people who are open to text, right? There are some donors that we text with. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Or via email even. A little Loom video or a little something. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much.
Okay.
I haven't done it. I've always sort of wanted to do it, and I just, for one reason or another, it never came out. But what I've seen work in other nonprofits, or maybe in webinars I sat on, like the person that's like thanking the donor live from their phone's out in front of them as they're like in the field, they're being like, hey, we're here at the whatever, and this is what's going on right now. But I just saw your gift come in, and I wanted to say thank you so much. It makes such a huge difference. And sorry for like the shaky cam, but I wanted to send it. And then you hit send. If you were the donor and you got that right away, it's like timeliness is what matters the most. And you're like, wow, I caught them in the middle of the day and they sent me this. That would knock me off my feet if I got something like that. So things like that are great.
That.
A Loom video is great too from your desktop, but timeliness, honesty, transparency, where you're at, if you can connect it to the organization and the mission that you're representing, it's like all the better. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Any questions, Meg?
Yes, just one question from Eduardo, one of our regulars. So he asked, are there any sample letters that truly have worked for nonprofits that you could share with us?
Sample letters. I don't really believe in a one size fits all approach for a letter, but there are certainly like example letters for the way that you can sort of introduce the message, have more detail and content there, have your call to action, have the signature, and then have a PS. There's definitely a formula for that. And we've got some templates that we use at Coastal Nonprofit for it, but I would say you could probably find them through a Google search. And I'd also encourage you to look. I don't know if you receive mail yourself, Eduardo, with solicitations in them, but I've been getting them. Colleagues of mine have been getting them, and I always ask to keep them myself, and I ask my colleagues to save them and show them to me. And I always am looking to see who else is sending out mailed letters or email solicitations. I save them in my inbox, and I always borrow from the ones that are
I
doing
do
something
too.
that stands out to me.
I
It's
do
like
too.
there are no
Why
no
not?
original ideas. We're
Yeah.
all just borrowing from each other.
That's right.
But go and see who is using something that works and sort of build your own. Build your template of what was it about the way that they laid it out that worked really well for you. And then we've got this incredible tool in AI and ChatGPT that can help you go and ideate, take an idea and turn it into language, take language and give you notes on how you can strengthen. So many ways that you can enhance what you may have done that you feel is kind of rough and bring it to life or polish it or get you stuck if you're in the ideation phase. So I would just say the combination of use the free tools that are out there, look at what you're already receiving and what resonates to you. That's about the best way to start with that.
Great. Fantastic. Doug, I want to pause here and maybe go to your campaign overview to give everyone a chance to look at it, and also for you to give us or to give you a chance to explain it a little bit. So
Totally.
Doug is going to show us a campaign overview that he has. It's just a really nice outline of what that campaign could look like. And then he's going to talk to you about how you can get your hands on this for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah. This is an overview. An overview is one document that lays out your plan for a campaign. And it's very comprehensive and you don't have to do all of it. But what's great about it is it gets you to think about and define all of these key components. So I'll try to go through it relatively quickly. I don't want to have a ton of time, but basically at the top here, we've got our dates. This is very clear when it starts and when it finishes. For a year-end campaign, I would encourage everybody to end it on December 31st at midnight, right? The very end of the year is the end of your campaign, and start it when it feels appropriate, usually 6 to 8 weeks. Start it in November is great. You have your theme and unifying message. This is a long time to figure out what this is, and that's okay. It might be the last thing that you do, but it's the central umbrella that you're going to, all of your messages will sort of fit under. And then your goal, this is how much you want to raise. If there's a challenge or a match, you can base it off of what happened last year. If you've never done this, you can come up with any amount that feels ambitious but possible. And then we break it down into some of the key areas here. So this is where you can spend the most time developing your case for support. Excuse me for a sec. Got something in my throat. This is why it matters right now that people support. What urgent need are you addressing? Think of like just brief 3 to 4 sentences that are very clear and direct of why somebody needs to support right now to your organization. And include 3 or 4 bullet points below that are compelling reasons a donor should give. Breaks down further into campaign goals. We want to raise X amount of dollars by this many donors. Let's see. This is editable, and this is on purpose so that you can make this your own by this date. Maybe you have an engagement goal. Maybe your nonprofit has a lot of people that seem to have fallen off. You knew that they were giving, they haven't. So you might really focus on getting them to re-engage with you. Maybe you've got a long-term goal that you want this campaign to play a part of and that the growth that you want to grow into. And then this one here, this is super important. Define your scope and your channels. And like we talked before, direct mail, it does not get old. It is still effective. And even if you don't see the return on the investment of the cost of stamps and printing and all of that, you get to spend time in front of people, and that matters. So a letter, who's it signed by? This is really I always think of this piece as your central piece that maybe your first email that launches the campaign reflects the same message, maybe in just like an email format that your mailed letter would reflect. And I try to always keep the mailed letters to one page. So you're trying to keep it succinct. It's okay if you go over a little bit. I just find it's cleaner if you can keep it on one page. 6 or more emails. This is how you sort of keep the conversation going. Emails serve more as a reminder from your initial, we launched, we have a campaign. Don't assume that if people decided they wanted to donate, that they did it right away. They sometimes passively think like, oh yeah, I'll get to that later. This is how you remind them. And you tie your social media posts, whatever networks people are on that you have, to the same content that you have in these supporting emails. So you align your social media posts with your email. If you can organize phone call outreach, that's another channel that's incredibly effective. Just like the amount of time that you would spend with direct mail, even if you don't answer your phone because you don't believe anybody who calls you by a number that you don't know is ever worthy of your time, because we all get spammed so much, you probably check the voicemails if somebody left you a voicemail. And if you left a voicemail for somebody, that matters. That makes an impact. So think about, can you call some of the people in your campaign? Can you call at least the donors who gave last year and you're asking to give this year? Can you call the people who gave earlier that you're asking if they might be able to make an additional gift? Decide who's leading it and who's supporting those phone call efforts. Think about what on your website needs to change. Do you have a home page banner where you're going to put the campaign there? Does your online giving page need to be updated to reflect the same language? And then Giving Tuesday, it's there. We know about it. Some of us dread it. Some of us love it. But everybody knows that the general public's attention is turned toward giving on this day. So it's good to participate and think about how that fits into the overall campaign.
I have a quick question for you, Doug.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier reminding people the ways that they can give. And
Yeah.
I think you had said that having a dedicated page on your website on the ways to give was really important, because people forget that they have funds at Schwab, or that they could give, if they're 70 and a half, they could give a distribution from their IRA, you know, all these different things that they're just not aware of.
Yeah, a ways to give page goes so far.
Yes.
There's a lot of good examples you can find. I won't give any plugs, but you can look around at different nonprofits. But yeah, think of it as, if you can make your giving page or a dedicated page on your website, when somebody were to click to go and donate, that says you can give by check, you can give by online, by credit card, you can give by donor advised funds, you can give by IRA, anything that details that, and then give them instructions on how to take that the next step. That's important, and you get to control that because it's your website.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, I'll just sort of skim through the rest here. Targets and segmentation, we've talked a lot about that, but ideally when you're in the weeds of the list, you can break down the number of people in each category here. That's helpful for you to know the total number of people that you're targeting in the campaign. This is where you take the dollar amounts, right? If it's $50, $100, $250, $500, $1,000, $3,000, right? Tiers of giving and what the impact is at each is important for people to see. This is where you define that matching gift opportunity, who's able to do it, up to how many dollars. Have a plan for how you're going to recognize anybody who gives during the campaign. Recognition is free, but everybody feels good to be recognized. And exclusive content, if there's any exclusive content that is like a special benefit for participation here. This is your budget, what you're willing to allocate for direct mail costs, boosted social media posts. That's a whole nother discussion, but I encourage it. If you need to outsource design, if it's outside of your house, so that you're planning for the total budget you have available. Draft out your timeline. This is really key once you launch and are going, for all of the follow-up things, but don't forget to timeline out the steps, at least the major steps before, when you're going to drop your mailed stuff at the post office, when you have to have the content finalized by, the date that it's officially launching by email, mail, social media. Give it maybe a couple weeks before you start your phone calls so that anybody that might give online, you don't need to spend time calling them if they were going to donate right away. And all of your other emails. And try to include a thank you and recap. After it's done, think about it in January, way that you just sort of recap whether you're not naming the numbers, the dollars, but the impact, or just simply saying thank you. We're sort of done emailing you now, right? It's a nice thing to send to everybody. This is just another way to dive more specifically into the content topics and story assets that your supporting emails after the first one would be a part of. This is your roles and responsibilities, who's managing overall the campaign, who's designing it, who's overseeing the budget, writing the letter, who's the signer of the letter, who sends the emails, who's leading the phone call outreach, and who's preparing and segmenting the lists. And then define your metrics for success. This is just some suggestions. You can define this however you want, but
Fantastic.
that is the
Fantastic.
overview.
So Meg, did you already pop that in the, yes, you did. Okay, fantastic. Now, what format will they get this in, Doug, if they sign up for it so that they can repurpose it? Is it in a Word doc or a Google doc, or is it a PDF?
So it's both. It's Word
Oh,
and Google
fabulous.
Doc.
Fabulous.
I think the link should take you to Coastal Nonprofit's website. You'd enter your name and email, and then it'll take you to either download the Word version or make a copy of the Google Doc version, whatever way that you prefer working in. And then it's an editable thing that you can use, you can reuse each year to organize your campaigns.
Fantastic. Okay. So let's see. I think we're going to have to skip this in the interest of time. But I do have something that I wanted to ask you, unless you take a look at it and you have anything special you want to, oh, I'm sorry, it is about this. I wanted to ask about your comment on impact report. I couldn't see it because I only had everybody's picture in front of it and I couldn't see what it said. Impact reporting. You had a comment about the complexity of impact reports and how we can get away with something as simple as what?
One page, one sheet.
One sheet, you guys.
Impact reports don't need to be novels. I would much prefer not. I don't feel like I have time to look at a novel, to read a novel about your nonprofit. I want to know real quickly, visually. I want to see pictures of faces and smiling people that were served by your nonprofit, and just a breakdown of the numbers. How many people were served? How many, right? Like whatever is most impactful for the work that you do. Phrase it in that way and show it on a single page.
Love it. Love it.
There's great templates in Canva. If you use Canva, you can find one page template for impact reports.
So that's for a one-page impact report. You do not need a 7-page, 10-page document. So that's a great tip. Doug, this has been so helpful. I have so many things that jumped out at me. Ambitious but possible. Handwritten notes for the holidays. Videos in action. I mean, so thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Very, very valuable. Really, really great. I just want to go through a couple of last minute things, but if you have questions for Doug.
Looks like,
Oh, can I ask whoever to mute whoever's on sound? If you have questions for Doug, we are putting his, or maybe Meg has already put his website and his email address. Can we put your email address in the chat? Is that all right, Doug? If we haven't already? Okay, great.
I can type it in too.
Fantastic. So reach out to Doug if you have any questions. We're also going to send you a good bit of information in the follow-up email after the webinar. But Doug and Courtney are fabulous. They are really very knowledgeable. They're doing amazing work with nonprofits, and we're really pleased to be able to partner with them on projects. So as you know, we're around if you need us for anything. Here's Doug's information. So when we put the webinar up in Kajabi and when we provide the resources, you'll be able to access this as well. But in the meantime, it's coastalnonprofit.com is the website. All right. And then that /campaign-freebie for the download. The next webinar is Leading with Strength, Mental Health Support for Nonprofit Leaders. Our guest speaker is Neil Salzman, the founder and executive director of the REST Initiative. That is an amazing, incredible program. We actually have a team member who's very familiar with them and knows the incredible work that they do supporting the caretakers, the people that are taking care of the rest of the community out there. So join us for that November 11th, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. And does anyone have any last minute comments, thoughts, questions right before we wrap up here? Anything else? Anything I missed, team? No, we're all good?
All good.
All right. Well, thank you. Doug, thank you again so much. This was so
Of course.
valuable.
Yeah.
You know, you
I
think
love
you
talking about
know,
this
you
stuff.
know so much already. And this is what I love about having guests on. I learn every single time, right? There's a nugget that I get reminded of. There's a piece we've forgotten that we should be doing or we should be mentioning. So yeah, you learn every time. So thank you so, so much. Great job. Wonderful to have you with us. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you next month. Reach out to us if we can help you with anything in the meantime. All
Thank
righty.
you
Take care,
both
everyone.
so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Our pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.